Shortly after he moved into the halfway house in Springfield, it was an unusual place for Louis. I mean, most of the residents of a halfway house tend to be, this is all for men. They have halfway houses for women as well. But these are mostly drug addicts and alcoholics that are in and out. They'll tend to, and this was wintertime now, Louis was getting out of his month in treatment, middle of December. And so a lot of residents of halfway houses are basically guys that don't want to be on the street in the wintertime. So they sober up or pretend to be sober for a while to get in off the streets. Anyway, Louis was highly motivated. He didn't really spend much time relating with the other men in the halfway house. He pretty much stayed to himself and listened to music and read some things, mostly AA related material, but I'm sure he had some other books with him. And, again, the point of this part of the story is, again, Louis being willing to trust, okay? And so because he was so willing to trust, he didn't spend a lot of time planning or thinking about anything after the 6 months. He was pretty comfortable just being there. He got a part-time job at a nearby city library. And he was, he saved a little bit of money because he pretty much, when he went into the treatment center, he had to go through a bankruptcy process, and he literally had nothing. So it was kind of sweet. He saved, I think he had to give half of whatever income he made at the library to the halfway house for, rent. They wanted guys to contribute something for their housing and food. And then he keep the other half. And I think he probably actually saved maybe $15 or $20 a week that he was saving toward buying a bicycle. By springtime, he would get out on his bicycle, and he really went through a pretty amazing process where, not only was he for this dark period consuming vast amounts of alcohol and taking drugs, but he was also smoking and doing quite a few unhealthy things. So it was clear to him early in his stay at the halfway house that he was watching these other guys just smoking and drinking coffee, and which he was doing also, but he decided as things went along, maybe, I don't know how long it was, maybe a month or 2 months, that, okay, he was ready to really clean house, quit smoking, quit drinking coffee, had his bicycle, started really turning his obsession into being healthy, he started riding his bicycle, getting up to eventually 50 or 60 miles a day. He started training for it to do a century in the spring where you bicycle 100 miles. So he put all of that creative energy that he had into just kind of physically rebirthing himself, becoming very healthy and not just sober. Of course, went to AA meetings, and the important part of this segment is to outline how Louis was guided toward his next surrogate mother, who was waiting for him in Amherst, Massachusetts. He was getting near the end of his 6 months, and his counselor, Maurice, was asking Louis, so, you're going to be graduating soon. You need to have a plan. Where are you going? You can have a job. Because it was clear to Louis that he wasn't going to go back and live with his family or again, it was very, very clear that, again, just like he knew in the first phase of his rebirthing, that his birth family was not his true family. He knew now, as a result of this healing process, that his birth family actually was quite toxic, especially his father, who was an active alcoholic. And so, Louis would make the decision that he wouldn't see his father for a period of time, ended up being 5 years, and even limited, visits with his sister or mom. Really wanted to establish a new sense of family. And when Maurice was asking, well, you have to decide where you're going to go if you're not going to go back, stay with your family. I said, well, there's this whole health expo coming to Springfield this next weekend. I'm pretty sure I'm going to find out at this event my next step. And so, sure enough, he went on Saturday, the first of the 2-day weekend, and there were many presenters and that were from the Northampton, Amherst area. And so it became very clear that, this is like a real healing place, spirituality, and lots of things that were interesting to Louis. So he decided that on Saturday that he would move to that area. And then it was on Sunday morning that he met Claire Ludlow, and she was giving a talk on this thing called A Course in Miracles. And 10 minutes into that hour presentation, Louis was convinced, wow, this is it. This is my next step. I'm going to move to Amherst, Massachusetts, and study Course in Miracles with Claire Ludlow. So he told her that at the end of the talk, and she was like, oh, great. Well, we have this place called Harmony Institute where we have our classes. She recommended that he start in September when they begin a new year-long study of the workbook. Louis was a little disappointed because this was only like June, so he had to occupy himself for the whole summer before he would move up there. But he did it. She recommended some tapes, Beverly Hutchinson tapes, Course in Miracles with some music, piano music, Stephen Halpern. And that was lovely. And Louis decided, well, just for the summer, I'll go stay with my sister Lynn, who was also in recovery, so that he felt that was a safe place for him to be, go to a lot of AA meetings and ride his bicycle like crazy every day and stay healthy and wait out the summer. And then the next phase, which was a beautiful phase, and I'll describe that next time we sit together, but his time in Amherst, Mass, which would be 3 years, was really it was really the perfect womb. You can imagine a rebirthing womb, Claire and Peg Holcomb and these other women, and I'm sure some men, but the group at Harmony Institute was very, very precious. And Claire and her husband, Ben Ludlow, they became his surrogate parents. Louis spent a lot of time with them, visiting at their house, doing yard work and whatever in exchange for just time hanging out with them, having meals with them. And it was a beautiful time. I'll save that for next time, keep this shorter today. But the key thing to take away from today's presentation is that this dark journey is very, very necessary. It's very important that the darkness that each of us carries is able to fully be brought to the light. Okay, there's a great line from A Course in Miracles that says, the holiest of all places is where an ancient hatred becomes a present love. And you humans sort of have a built-in problem that because of this egoic development, that's a form of self-hatred, that you have denied and projected your beauty, your glory, your divinity away from yourself, okay? Hence the necessity of me, this higher self that is your memory of your holiness. Okay? I am Louis's memory of his holiness. Okay? But it takes this, because there has been this problem, again, it's just part of the species, just like the way Louis talks about the tribal and egoic, your tribal mind is very shame-based. This is why tribal people are very easily controlled by churches and institutions and all that, because they're very easily shamed. They sort of live at the level Louis mentioned, this whole Hawkins scale. Shame and fear is what governs the tribal conditioning. It's just basic survival. The tribal mind is all about just surviving, keeping the body alive, and everything is seen as a sort of an enemy to be protected from, and the wolf is always at the door. Anyway, the egoic structure is very much consumed by hatred, special hatred. And again, because we don't want to acknowledge hatred, self-hatred, the ego, what the ego does is denies the self-hatred and projects hatred out onto other people, places, and things. So this very judgmental mental construct needs to be broken down. And when it's broken down, then the individual is consumed with this self-hatred, which of course, once it's acknowledged, can easily be healed by love. Okay, the solution to hatred is simply just a lack of love. So hatred is easily healed or transformed by love. So Louis is in this stage now of, he just immersed himself in years and years of self-destructive, self-hatred behaviors. And now it's time for him, again, like a little baby, to be born in an environment where he feels just endless amounts of love, unconditional love from his own divine self, as well as, pretty high levels of human love and kindness. And this would be his healing journey for the years to come. So we'll end for now with this, but just remember again, because this individual story is meant to be a reflection of your story and also your collective story, and that what you as a collective now is going through is all of this hatred coming to the surface so it can be acknowledged and healed or transformed. Again, there's simply a lack of genuine love in the world today, which has a remedy, okay? And that's the reconnection with the divine, infinitely powerful love that will transform your whole species into the new species, okay? Okay, again, which I represent. So have a beautiful day, receive the blessing from the Sun King, and rock and roll, baby.